Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping away from the usual data sets. We're getting our hands dirty, so to speak, with your source material. Some really interesting observations from, well, a community garden trip.
Yeah, spontaneous one.
Exactly. And our focus, it's this incredibly tough, really quite beautiful ornamental grass, Chinese fountain grass. The proper name, for those keeping notes, is Pennisetum alopecuroides.
And what's great about this, as you said, is where the insight came from. It wasn't some planned study. It was literally spurred by a grocery run. The observer just happened upon these community ponds.
Right.
And there it was, this fountain grass just thriving right at the water's edge, doing its thing. It really shows how, sometimes the best intel comes from just noticing what's working out there in the real world.
Totally agree. So our mission today is to kind of synthesize that accidental discovery. We want to quickly get to grips with what makes this perennial grass such a winner for, well, low-effort landscaping. Why are people who value resilience getting interested? It boils down to durability and ease of use, really. Okay, let's unpack this. So we have to start where the observation started, right? The setting. The notes are clear. It wasn't just near water. It was right there, along the edge of these community garden ponds. So this isn't a plant that needs dry feet. It's actively dealing with lots of moisture, almost a boggy situation, maybe?
That location is definitely the first big clue. It tells you a lot about its toughness. We call it Chinese fountain grass, Pennisetum alopecuroides, and yeah, its reputation backs that up. You see it recommended for tricky spots, coastal areas.
Oh, interesting. Coastal, too.
Yeah, places other plants might struggle. But seeing it thrive right at a pond's edge, that suggests it can handle consistently wet, saturated soil. And that's a pretty big deal for most ornamental grasses. They usually hate that.
That saturation tolerance, yeah, that's huge. But let's look at the structure. Why is it manageable? The sources say it's a perennial, obviously, it comes back every year. But the key seems to be how it grows. It mentions these slow, dense, tufted clumps.
Exactly. That tufted clump growth is, well, it's crucial for the whole low maintenance thing. You basically have two types of grasses, right? Runners, the ones that send out rhizomes underground and pop up everywhere.
The ones that drive you crazy trying to contain them.
Right. And then you have clumpers, like this one. They just gradually get wider from the center.
Ah, okay. So it's not sneaking off underground. It defines its own little area.
Precisely. This stays put, like you said, widening slowly. The notes mention it gets about 1 meter tall, so you get this great visual impact, good ground cover from that dense clump. But you don't have the nightmare of digging out runners all the time. It's structure, but without being invasive in its own bed. That's, exactly what someone looking for low maintenance wants to hear.
And that fits perfectly with what the author notes, this shift in their own interest. They mention usually going for like big flashy flowers, but now consciously looking for structure, low maintenance, ornamental grasses. It's like wanting plants that fit into your life, not plants that demand all your time.
And fitting in means handling whatever you throw at it within reason. Benign neglect, or maybe even too much enthusiasm with the watering can. Which brings us back to the water. The notes are really clear. This grass generally loves moisture, abundant moisture.
But hang on, don't most plants like water? Why is that special here?
Well, yes, but not necessarily that much water or water that hangs around. Think about typical drought-tolerant grasses. If you overwater them, keep their roots constantly wet, you're asking for trouble. Root rot, fungus, they just collapse.
Okay, got it.
This one, though, it's almost the opposite. It's actually well-suited for those heavy clay soils that don't drain well, or maybe that spot near the downspout that's always damp, or, where the sprinkler system is a bit overzealous.
So it actually likes what kills other grasses.
In many cases, yeah. It makes it kind of the perfect plant if you're someone who tends to water a lot. You don't have that constant worry, am I underwatering? Am I overwatering? It handles the wet side of things remarkably well. It basically turns a problem spot, that soggy corner, into a feature.
That's incredibly useful practical advice, especially for tricky garden spots. But okay, let's look at the other side. It clumps slowly, which is great for maintenance in the garden bed. But the sources also say it's easy to propagate. Now, easy to propagate can sometimes be a red flag, right? Does easy mean invasive?
That's a really important question, and we need to look at how it propagates. The notes mention its efficiency, calling it a fascinating seeding project. And the mechanism is described as abiotic seeding.
Abiotic, meaning non-living, like wind and water.
Exactly that. It's not relying on, say, birds eating the seeds and dropping them elsewhere. It harnesses the environment itself. Wind obviously can blow the seeds around, but what's really fascinating, as the notes observed near the pond, is the role of water.
Ah, okay. So the water isn't just helping it grow, it's helping it spread.
Precisely. If it's planted near moving water, a stream, a drainage ditch, even runoff from a slope, that water acts like a conveyor belt for the seeds. Wind might carry them a certain distance, but water can potentially transport them much, much further downstream.
Wow. So while it behaves itself in your garden bed by clumping slowly,
Its seeds can really travel if they hit moving water. That abiotic efficiency gives it a huge potential range. So for learner, thinking about low maintenance, you have to factor that in. It's low maintenance locally in the bed itself.
Yeah.
But if you're planting it right next to a creek or a natural waterway, you need to be mindful. That efficiency could cause issues downstream. It's sort of the hidden aspect of harnessing nature.
right. So low gardener effort locally, but potential ecological impact elsewhere if sited carelessly. That's a crucial distinction.
Right.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly away from the mechanics toward the end of the notes. The author mentions this moment of creative composition, even rushing. They notice the aesthetics, specifically thinking about using a slower shutter speed on a camera to capture the grass moving in the wind.
Yeah, and that's not just fluff. That visual appeal, the movement, is absolutely central to why it's such a valued ornamental. We talk about durability and low maintenance, but gardens are also about beauty, texture, life.
And grasses bring that kinetic element.
They really do. Think about it. Flowers give you pops of color, sure.
Mhm.
But grasses provide texture, sound, and that constant movement, especially this one with its feathery plumes. And consider the off-season. When the flowers are gone, the leaves have dropped, what do you have left?
Structure, hopefully.
Exactly. And this Chinese fountain grass, even when it's dormant, brown, dried out, it holds its shape. The seed heads persist. It provides this wonderful, soft, flowing texture that contrasts beautifully with, say, sharp evergreen lines or hard paving. That movement the author wanted to capture, that's its winter job, providing interest when little else is happening.
It's like visual interest, but dynamic. Texture and life, even in dormancy. And all this comes packaged in a plant that, as we said, doesn't mind wet feet and stays politely in its clump.
So if we pull it all together, synthesize what we've got from these observations, we see a plant that's kind of built for modern gardening challenges, wouldn't you say?
Hmm.
It gives you low local maintenance because it clumps slowly. It solves problems because it thrives in moist conditions where others fail. And it delivers year-round visual appeal with that structure and movement.
Yeah. We've taken that single observation by the pond Pennisetum alopecuroides and really fleshed out its profile. We get the slow clumping, the benefit of its water tolerance, and how its movement is a key feature, not just a side note.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, like the author's shift in focus, it's not just about this one grass, is it? It's about maybe rethinking our priorities,
Hmm.
moving from just chasing the temper wow factor of flowers, perhaps, towards valuing resilience, structure, the plants that endure. It's about appreciating the beauty in systems that work, that are sustainable with less input.
That's a great point. Which leads us to a final thought, building on that really intriguing detail from the notes. The abiotic seeding. We talked about how this plant cleverly uses wind and water, non-living forces, to spread its seeds really effectively. So the question for you, the listener, is how might understanding and maybe even harnessing those abiotic forces in your own space, things like wind patterns, water runoff, sun exposure, how might that change how you design? How could it change your planting choices? Maybe letting nature's own systems do some of the work for you instead of always fighting against them. Where else can that principle apply?